Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Birmingham Technology Centre. You join us here today on the 2 days after the latest Fusion release, and we're super excited to be able to take you through what's new in each and every one of the workspaces. We've got content from design, we've got content from data, and we're also going to deep dive into manufacturing and electronics and really take you through what's new, how to make the most of what's new, and also how to get up to speed, and so you can start to benefit from all the content right now, today, in Autodesk Fusion. So before we get in, the one thing I'd like to say is if you have any questions, please let us know in the chat. If the chat's not opened up yet, we'll make sure that's opened up for you. Let us know in the Q&A if you've got any questions, and we'll be doing Q&A after each workspace. So it's the perfect opportunity. If you do have that question, I can almost guarantee you're not the only person thinking it. And so please do let us know. No question is too simple. No question is too difficult. It is a bumper release in each and every workspace. And data is taking center stage. So we're going to throw it over to our creative space. And Jacob's going to take us through the latest and greatest in data functionality for you. So without any further ado, Jacob, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Spencer. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is something everyone pretty much does on a daily basis if you use Fusion, and that's locating your files, opening your files from the data panel, searching for things, etc. And in this July update, we've released some great new enhancements for both the data panel and the home tab. There's a lot of crossover between the two, so I'm going to show you that in a live demo in a second. But as Spencer said, if you have any questions about what I'm showing you, just put them in the chat, and hopefully at the end of my segment, I'll be able to answer them live. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. Cool, let's just close the Zoom. Sweet, yeah. So as you can see here, this is the data set we're going to be showing you today. It's a really cool supercharger. It's got several different components. It's got some bolts from the fasteners library, just a quick plug for the fasteners library. Try that out if you haven't already. But as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the data panel in particular. So one of the enhancements we've added this month, and this is all based on customer requests, is after searching for something. So I'm going to search, for example, supercharge. You can see here it's found all the things that have supercharge in the name. This isn't anything new. This is what we've had for a long time. But what is new is if, for example, I want to find out the exact location of, let's say, this supercharger housing at the bottom here, I can right-click, and there's a new option called Show in Location, and this is brand new for this release. And when I click that, it's going to take me directly to the subfolder, the folder, the nested, if you have many nested subfolders, etc., it's going to take you directly to where that particular design's stored. And this is going to really speed up time locating designs in your particular project. Maybe you can't quite remember where, let's say for the sake of argument, this configurable screws design is saved, but it's saved in the same folder as supercharger housing. Using that right-click show in location, you can easily jump to where that particular design's saved. That's the first thing. That's probably my favorite thing for the data panel in this release, is that feature. It's really going to speed up workflows, finding out where parts are. A second thing we've added in this release is previously, if you had quite a long name, for example, this one here, obviously the name is longer than the width of the data panel. It was cropped off before. Maybe you got a sneak peek there. But if I hover my mouse, very small thing, but it's a really nice quality of life user request that now, if I hover my mouse, I can see a pop-up with the full name. So very small, might seem small, but many people have asked for this over the years. Next thing I'm going to show you, which is similar to the show in location. If I were to, let's say, timing gear. If I open up the version dropdown, we have this new section here. And again, very similar to the right-click show in location. It's going to show you the exact subfolder, subfolder, etc., of where that particular design is saved. And this isn't just text. If I want to, I can click on, I don't know, let's just click on what's new. So here's all the different what's new folders in that particular location. So again, it's all about helping you find out where your data is stored a lot quicker from the data panel. So moving away from the data panel and moving to the Home tab, we have some improvements here. This is going to be very similar to what I just showed you, but obviously in the Home tab. So again, you can see my search history here. I'll just click Supercharge. It's a previous search thing I've searched for. And there's a few new things going on here. The first thing that I'll just mention, I'll kind of go top down, is the search bar will stay persistent. Before it disappeared, you had to go back to get the search bar back up, but now it's always going to stay in that same location if you want to do subsequent searches. In the Home tab now, you can also search for folders. Before, you can only search for designs or drawings. You couldn't actually search for folders. Now, obviously, we can search for folders, which is great. It's also going to highlight in this kind of blue shading your particular search term. So obviously there I didn't search for supercharger, I just searched for supercharge. So it's going to highlight that particular text in blue. Another new thing is this completely new location panel here. So again, similar to before, it's going to show you the exact location in your particular Fusion team where the design or the drawing or the folder is located. And pretty much exactly the same as the data panel. I can right click. Oh, is it going to show me that one? Oh, come on. Error loading data. Okay, maybe I can't show you this. But if you were to right click, there's a same option as the data panel to show in location. Literally the same thing. If I were to right click that, press show in location, it would take me to the exact location of that particular design. So as I mentioned, this release with the data panel and the Home tab is all about allowing you to find out the exact location of your data a lot quicker, especially if you're working with a lot of people. Sometimes it's not quite clear where someone saved a particular design, where certain folders located. But hopefully with those enhancements I've shown you today, it's going to speed up that process a lot. So that's it from me. I'm going to invite Spencer back on if there's any questions in the chat that hopefully I'll be able to answer.
Yeah, thanks so much. I love to see development on the data panel. I think that's absolutely brilliant and something that a lot of you guys out there have been asking for. So I hope this really satisfies that particular itch, if you will. The Home tab is newer. Talk to us a little bit about the methodology behind the Home tab and what that's really designed for.
Sure, yeah. I suppose it's an alternative to the data panel. They do very similar things. I think the Home tab is actually, thank you. The Home tab is actually maybe a bit more graphical. You can see kind of the preview icons a bit larger, things like that. It's a bit more of a kind of modern interface. They are very similar, I would say. You know, if you haven't tried out the Home tab already, I do recommend you try it out and sort of maybe prefer it to the data panel even. But they kind of complement each other. Got the intended purpose.
And the infamous question when we always talk about Home tab, how come some people can't see it and some people can?
Yeah, so obviously everyone's different, but the main thing I would say to check is if you have a single user storage hub in your particular Fusion account. If you have that, you're not going to be able to access the Home tab. But that's fine. If you just do a quick Google, I checked before, if you just Google Autodesk Fusion single user transfer, basically it will give you a really easy guide. It's all automated to transfer your single user storage hub to a team hub. Once you've done that, you should be able to access the Home tab. If not, reach out to Autodesk support. Obviously, that's what they're there for. But that's usually the reason why people can't see the Home tab.
Brilliant. And very last question, really quick. You can get recent files in the Home tab as well as in the data panel, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I didn't actually show that yet. But on the kind of, I guess, home page of the Home tab, there's two different options, either projects or recent. And if you click recent, it's going to show you all your recent files in nice big tiles. So you can kind of see what it is and make it quite easy to see.
And the Home tab, you've got BOM too, right? BOM's in there?
BOM's in there, yeah. So yeah, it's a great point. So you can obviously access BOM inside your normal Fusion design environment, but you can also access it in the Home tab and on Fusion Team too. So it doesn't even have to be on the Fusion app itself. You can go straight to Fusion Team on the web and see the BOM there too.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the data side of Fusion and the product. If anyone has any questions on data, please keep them coming in. Jacob will be in the Q&A, will be in the chat, making sure to answer those. But for now, it's on to the next workspace. So over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Spence. I am James Mann. I'm also a customer advocate here at Autodesk. Today, I'm going to be going through what's new in the design and documentation workspaces. I'm going to kick straight off. We haven't got a lot of time and we've got a lot to cover. So let me share my Fusion screen. You can see here, I hope you can see, that I've got a supercharger screw from that supercharger assembly that Jacob showed before. The first tool I'm going to be showing off that's new in this release is what we're calling the new spun profile tool. Essentially, this is a tool that's going to allow our CNC machinists, specifically turn mill or turning machinists, to really get their stock shape out of their 3D models in the design workspace and into the manufacturing workspace a little bit easier. You can see from a shape like this, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to guess or just intuitively know what shape your stock's going to be, especially if you had odd brackets off to the side. If the geometry was even odder than this, you might not know. So what you can do, and I'll show you how to go through it now, is you start off by making a sketch. This is actually a sketch tool, sort of like a projection tool. First thing you want to do is start a sketch on a plane that is actually on the axes of rotation of your turn mill part. So you can see here, or turn part. I'm going to hit this plane here, and I know that's through the axis of rotation. I'm then going to bring up, go into the Create menu, then Project, and you can see Spun Profile. This is the new tool we've got here. I'm going to click that. I'm going to click the geometry. I'm going to select the axes that I want to choose. I'm going to choose this origin axis because I know it's down the center. I'm going to hit OK once it's loaded. And then what I'll do is I'll hide that body. Oh, Zoom's got in the way, excuse me. Hide that body, and you'll see it's developed a projection for me. What I'll do now is I will join that together, put a rotation in there, sorry, a center line in there so I can revolve around this shape. And create this stock from this body. One top trick that I've heard from some machinists internally is that if you wanted to leave some stock to leave on a specific part of this model, what you can come in and do is you can hit offset. I've hit O on the keyboard there. Offset one of these lines, let's say 0.2 millimeters, and then connect that up to the rest of the sketch. Revolve this part, and then you'll see that what I'll have is a little bit of extra stock to leave there, but I'll also have the stock that let me make sure I select that surface. The stock that I need to then take this into the manufacturing workspace. What you'll have noticed also from that sketch is that it was purple. It was purple. It was a projected line. I checked. There was a little checkbox inside that operation to make sure that it is projected. And what it means is that when you change your body of the actual component, it will stay linked. So that's the first new feature in the design workspace. I'm now going to come on to a couple of configuration changes. A couple of quality of life improvements when it comes to configurations. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up preferences. So we've introduced a new configurations preference. You can see here underneath general, underneath design, we've got two options here. First one, export configured components as configure designs. Remember that part. I'm going to be touching on that in a second after what I'm talking about now. But you may have noticed in the browser that I've actually got more than just one name in here. What I'm going to do is put it back to default. So let me put back to none quickly, apply it, and you'll see this is how it used to work. This is how it works from release back in September. You can see I've got some nondescript names in here. I've got 6005 or 25 millimeter shaft. If you didn't happen to know that those are bearing designations, or if you were not the user that created this model, you might not know what they are. So what this new feature does is allows you to choose specifically what shows up in that browser for configured designs. So you can see here, I'm going to choose, I've got three different options in whatever order I like. I can start with a configured design name, which is what I'm going to do here. That's the name that would appear in your data panel. So save name for the file. In this case, it's the family name for my configuration. So it's configured bearings in this case. I'm then going to select configuration name. I will leave part number off because I haven't assigned them for this parts. And you can see straight away that I can now tell exactly what I've got in here. I've got configured bearing, that's specifically 6005 designation. I've got some configurable circlips in here, some configurable keys, and so on. So a nice little touch there. I mentioned a second ago there was another setting in there. That is a preference for the new export dialog that we've created. So in this release, you'll now be able to export what we call nested configurations or layered configurations. To explain what that is, I've got here a configuration. This is an assembly, right? And itself, it's configured. I've got a cutout view or a full assembly view. I'll double click that and let that load. You can see I've got a different configuration of this supercharger. If I go back to that cutout view, but I've also got, as you'll have noticed throughout this, is I've got external components inside of it that are also configured themselves. So it's a multi-layered configurable assembly. Before this release, we couldn't export this and keep all the configuration data. I couldn't bring all the families along with me and so on. With this release, you now can. So if I go to the export, back to the export dialog, you can see previously it was only active configuration. So it'd bring exactly what I'm seeing right now as a standard design. You'd lose the table data. The configured design is now there. If I go back to active configuration, that preference I mentioned earlier is just the default for this. So I've got it set as checked. And this means that if I select the active configuration, I'm going to export the assembly as a standard file, but these sub-assembly components will still be configurations. That's it for the design workspace. I'm now going to jump into the drawings workspace. First up, we have a new addition to automated drawings. I don't know how many of you have tested it out yet, but it's a great new feature we added a few releases back that really takes out 50 to 75% of the work. In fact, before I continue on, what I'll do is I'll get it generating because it does take a little bit of time. So I'm going to go new drawing from design. I'll choose automatic. That's this new tool I'm talking about. I'm going to choose a template in my case, which is got nothing in it except a title block with the logo and my name and stuff like that in. First level, all level, doesn't matter for this component because I've just got a simple, it's just one level component. This part is actually a gasket from the supercharger. I forgot to show you that inside the assembly, but you'll have to trust me on that one. So generation has started and you can see I can still work. It's working in the background, this automated drawings. What it is, like I said, it removes 50 to 75% of the tedious work. It's going to go ahead and create a sheet for every single component you've got in your design, whether it be one, just like this, or if you've got an assembly with 1,000 components, it will sit there and make a sheet for every single one. It'll put a base view in, projected views based on those base views. It'll put in a few dimensions for you. If it's a long and thin component, like a really long shaft, it'll even break the view for you. And rescale it up to make sure you can see some of these details that would be missing otherwise. If it is an assembly, the first sheet will also be an assembly sheet. So it'll just be some isometric views of the assembly as a whole. It won't break down that list, and it will have a parts list there, and it will also have balloons to go with. So it's not about completing your drawing for you. It's about doing it, a lot of the tedious work for you. It's the creating the sheets, the repetitive base view placing, and so on. So if I go over to notifications, you can see it's finished. It finished fairly quickly. This was one sheet. Like I said, I've tested this for components that have got assemblies that have got 60-odd components in. We're looking at around 10 minutes of compute. This is in the cloud, so you can carry on working, like I mentioned before. What I'm going to do is going to open this drawing, and we'll get to what's actually new in this release. And it's actually pulled up the automatic. Let me go to my notifications. Sorry. And you can see here, I've got a list of auto dimensions. This is what it's pulled in for me. You can see straight away, it's actually put a base view in there and two other views and a whole host of dimensions for me. It's chosen the scale and stuff like that. You can see straight away, we've got a little density slider that allows me I can whack it up and try and dimension absolutely everything, which is what I tend to do. And then I go in and delete ones I don't necessarily need. You still have to add critical dimensions and tolerancing to this because we don't have model-aware tolerancing in Fusion yet. We can't do that, but you'd have to do that yourself, is what I'm saying. So you can also choose a manual datum too. So I can go manual, select a date and choose a point on the graph. What's actually new, it's like I said, is ordinate dimensions. So let's click down here, and it's perfect for a part like this. You can see where I've got lots of dimensions that are all in one line, specifically these holes here or these holes vertically. I end up with lots of dimensions stacked on top of each other. And when I've got lots and lots and lots, let's say it's a fixture plate with 1,000 holes in it, dimensioning is going to become very difficult. It's going to become very cluttered and hard to read. So you can use ordinate dimensioning. If I click that and let it regenerate you can see reduce the clutter. I'm sure a lot of you that have used drawings before are aware of what ordinate dimensions are, and it's something that you can play with now. So something that we're really pleased to be introducing into automated drawings, another great tool we're adding to this base. And what I'm going to do now I've done that, I've decluttered it a bit, I'm going to hit the auto. I can't see it because Zoom controls are in the way, excuse me. I'm going to hit the tidy up button, and you're going to see it's going to move it around a little bit. If there were fewer dimensions on there, it would scale it up as well to make it fit a little nicer. But you can see it did most of the work for me. Next up, and finally from me for the new features, or at least the new demos, is what we're calling the Curve Min-Max Dimension tool. Brand new tool in the dimensioning system in drawings. It really is going to be the Swiss Army knife for dimensioning curves. Specifically, if you want to get a minimum or maximum dimension, this new tool allows you to really dimension things you couldn't do before. So you can see here, I've got a drawing of the supercharger screw from earlier. If I zoom in on this part that I haven't done yet and click Curve Min Max Dimension, you'll notice that I can now click on curves, and you can see if I highlight over another one, it's going to automatically go for the minimum in this case, because that would make the most sense. And you can see here, I can straight away get the minimum. That would have been almost impossible to do unless you created a sketch previously and dimensioned that sketch within the drawing workspace. It's called minimum and maximum because it also has some intelligent logic, and then it knows where you're clicking. So if I click, I can, on the outer edge of this circle here, and the outer edge of this one, you'll notice it does my outer to outer. If I do inner to inner, it's going to do the inner dimension. If I do inner to outer, as you'd expect, it's going to do the same in the middle. And I know that those numbers are perfect because these holes are 8 millimeters and these are all 4 millimeters apart. So I know, as a quick sanity check, that it has gone for my minimum and maximums there. This tool can also do dimensioning between concentric circles. So if I wanted to know the distance between my inside shaft, well, that would be the chamfered edge. So I'll do the middle one and the shaft edge here. You can see I can choose that 1.5 mil. You may have noticed that where I clicked on my second point was actually where I put the dimension. So I can almost choose where I want this to go, which is also quite a nice little feature on this new tool. So give it a play. This is really something that if you couldn't dimension something before, go and give it a go. It's going to be less frustrating to use and really is a great new tool that we've been working on for a while as well. That's it for the demos for me. I'll stop sharing my screen. I'm going to invite Spence back on. Well, hopefully we've got some good questions to answer.
Thanks so much for taking us through design and drawings. As always, the chat is gone wild. Thanks so much for all the questions. We really appreciate it. We're going to have to rattle through them. Michael asks around the ability to move a project, an accidental save in one area to the other. There's something called project transfer. We're calling that internally. We're working on that. It recently got released, actually, which makes that transfer of projects much smoother. My advice would be just hop onto Google, do a quick Fusion project transfer, and you'll see the exact workflow that you need to follow to move them over. Should be much more streamlined than it was before.
We can also drop that in. I'll drop that in chat after I finish my bit as well, just to help that.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Talk to me a little bit about the drawing template editor. Some people are, a little frustrated with that environment.
Yeah.
What's the current situation there?
So current situation, if we're talking about templates, we're talking about title blocks and so on, it doesn't really behave like sketches do in the design workspace, you may have noticed. You can't necessarily dimension how big your title block should be or exactly put the text in the center and things like that. We are well aware of this, and this is something we're actually working on internally at the moment. I absolutely cannot say anything, of course, as you'd expect, but I can tell you from early versions I've seen, it's something that has stopped my eye twitching when making title blocks. So look out for that.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. Keep watching these webinars, and you may be pleasantly surprised in future.
Question from Jonathan. Thanks for the question around the spun profile tool. And a couple of other people noticed this as well. It seems to be doing a lot of sketch segments in that.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about what's happening there and some of the knock-on side effects, maybe.
Yes. So for this part specifically, the way the tool works is it actually is rotated. You may have noticed inside the tool, there was a precision number. I can put in a 0.1 mil or 0.1, I think it must be a degree, 0.1 degree. And what it actually does is rotates that part through those dimensions and then projects every single time. I believe that's how it works. I'm not a developer, but that's how it looks like it works. And as a result, for this part specifically, you get those broken lines. What you can do for this part, it works perfectly because what you can do is you can delete the projection lines that are split and keep the two on the right-hand side and join them together. You keep the projection link because it's keeping those side geometries, and that would make a nice smooth surface. The issue with this is if you went to run your toolpath along, it would stop-start, right? So in cases like this, we are aware of this issue internally. I actually reported this when we were doing some internal testing, and we are looking to improve it. So yeah. Again, watch this space. It does work though if you're happy to put a little bit of work in to just edit it and bring it up to where you'd like, right? This was a particularly tricky part for Fusion to turn around, right? If it was just a standard square bracket or a bracket with a radius on it, it wouldn't be broken up like that. So I haven't done us any favors with that demo, but I hope it shows what it can do anyway.
Sure, absolutely. Good to hear that it's been worked on. So is the distance between the curves?
Yes.
Is it just the distance between the curves for the min-max curve dimension? Question from Austin. Thanks for the question.
Yes. So it's the minimum distance. You may have noticed from the last release, we actually released, if you're in the dimension tool specifically, not this new one that we're calling the Swiss Army knife of at least the min-max, it's minimum maximum only. It is only distances. It's not angles or arcs or anything like that, or radii. on the last release, if you're in the dimension tool and you right-clicked, we added a curve X, Y, min, max, similar sort of tool, except I could only do it in X and Y. So if your curve was off to a weird side, that the screw is a perfect example. With my lobe off to a corner, it's not an XY coordinate, it's a diagonal coordinate that's not in X and Y, obviously. So this tool works perfectly for that. It's really the one useful tool. It works better than the right-click workflow. And of course, there's only 1 click or 2 clicks as opposed to 4 or whatever.
Absolutely. Dan Pye is asking about 3D connection space mouse. I'm going to save that question because Kieran in manufacturing uses one. And so I'm sure I'll be able to answer that question really well.
Yeah.
Another question from Jonathan. Thanks for the great questions. I would love the ability to override the position of the text relative to the leader anchor, particularly for handling radius dimensions. Any insight there you can give us?
So just moving text in relation to the
Yeah, I often have cases where the default behavior of keeping the leader to text at over 90 degrees makes fitting the dimension in a crowded area a little difficult.
I see. So sometimes, instead of it being 90 degrees, it might jump to 270 or jump round to axes. Yeah.
Being able to flip to an acute angle leader, effectively.
Yes. So choosing what Fusion's doing instead of it automatically doing as you drag your thing around. I believe that's something we know of. I work with the drawing team, so I will take that feature back. It's not something I'm aware of that it's at the top of our priorities, but it's something I've noticed personally. So yeah, thanks for the reminder, and I'll get it into those development teams. Thank you, Jonathan.
And the final question for you, again from Austin, thanks so much. With sheet metal designs, it can be really helpful to have surface and centerline dimensions along a bend in drawings.
Yeah.
Such as like an arc and then a straight flange total length distance.
Yeah.
Is that something that, is also supported today, being worked on?
I suppose I believe the flat pattern has those lines, but if you're asking, I'm going to guess it's not. It doesn't. And again, another feature I would love to get in. If you'd love to chat more about these sorts of things, I would be absolutely up for having a customer meeting, or having a meeting with you and talking through these features, and getting it into the team and figuring out, like, trying to we'd like to listen to you guys. The whole point of these meetings is to find out what you really want, sort out priorities internally, and make sure we're working on what we should be. So yeah, thank you.
Right, a couple of quick fire ones that I can potentially answer. Drummond, where can I find previous seminar on the full configurations workflow? Jacob's going to put it in the chat for us, so check out the chat for that link, please. Where can I find a list of scheduled webinars? Head to autodesk.com/events. You'll be able to navigate to the webinars there, see a list of on-demand webinars as well as upcoming webinars. So we're ticking that one off as well. Great. Thanks so much, as always. If you do have any more questions on design and drawings, please keep them coming in. James is going to be right there in the chat and the Q&A to answer them. But it's manufacturing time. So let's head out there into our machine shop and see what Kieran's got for us. Over to you, Kieran.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inside of the Tech Center. Can everyone hear me okay? Superb. Right. So we're going to talk about manufacturing today, and I'm in a slightly different position because we've had a little bit of a shift around in some of the machines. We've made way for some mold machines and made way for some new machines to come in to the Tech Center. Hopefully we can show you some of those in some What's News that follow. Right, let's jump straight into Fusion manufacturing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is kind of two things today. One is going to kind of center around kind of your workflows, and the other one's going to be about a brand new toolpath. So the first thing we need to kind of talk about is the Heights tab. Now on the screen, I've got my steep and shallow strategy. Now what you'll see if I navigate to the Heights tab is that things look slightly a little bit different. And we've kind of moved things around a little bit. We've also given you additional functionality. So the first thing you're going to notice is that top of model and top of stock have been moved around. They are now placed within what we call the highest of or lowest of, and you can select each of those as you wish. All the other options remain unchanged. Okay, so within the highest of selected, we've moved that stock top and model top into. Now, a lot of our customers have said to us, well, you do stock top and you do model top. But what I'd really like is to also be able to specify the fixture top. In fact, I want to be able to specify my clearance or my retract height to be whatever is the highest, whether that's the highest of the stock, the model, or the fixture, because in certain circumstances, like the model you've got on screen, the fixture can often be higher than either the stock or the model. So here we go is a really good example of that. And as I kind of navigate and kind of look at the model side on, here we can kind of see we've got our retract height in green, our top height in blue, and our clearance in orange. Now, in this instance, both my retract height is above both of my stock top and my model top, but it is not above my fixture top. And this new option gives users the option to explicitly set whatever is selected to be the highest of, and it maintains also a offset that you've set, in this case, 2 millimeters. So this is really useful. Okay, let's just go back to our home position. Now, what happens in the situation that our toolpath, in this case, a 3D contour, actually, what we don't want to do is have the toolpath drop all the way down the side of this fixture. So now within the heights tab again, we can pick from the bottom height, essentially the highest of the fixture top. So what that would simply mean is that the lowest height or the highest height of my bottom will actually be on the top of this fixture. This means I'm not going to have the toolpath go any lower than the fixture, which means I can then flip that part over and then machine down the other side. Okay, so this is just a little workflow change. The idea here is that we've given you new functionality to now support fixtures, but we've also really done it in a way because we don't want to break any of your legacy workflows that you had when you were automating Fusion, whether that was automatically checking stock top or choosing stock bottom as an option. Hopefully this will not break any of those workflows. And additionally, it'll help you kind of automate more of your process going forward with this way. So hopefully this is going to be quite a supercharged mechanism to some of your workflows going forward. So we think it's going to be a plus and a win for you. So let us know how you get on with it as well. We'd love some more feedback on it. And yeah, we think it's going to be a real big win for you. So try it out for us. The next thing I really want to kind of move on to is a brand new strategy we are calling multi-axis finishing. Now, multi-axis finishing, I'm just going to kind of pick on the first toolpath there. What the hell is multi-axis finishing? Well, multi-axis finishing is simply a toolpath designed to machine the floors and the walls of pocket-shaped geometry. It machines this geometry that is typically not flat, is typically not swarfable, and doesn't have tight internal corners. This is particularly useful for multi-axis finishing. Okay, one of the other biggest benefits that this new multi-axis strategy has is the ability for the first time ever to use circle segment tools. Now, for those of you that know and work in the CAM industry, you'll know that circle segment tools are really important because they significantly cut down on the cycle time and maintain the same surface finish as you would have with a bull nose. So for those of you that don't know, a little bit of kind of tooling 101, circle segment tools generally are a little bit different to ball nose tools. Circle segment tools have a ginormous arc on them, whether that's on the side of the tool or the bottom of the tool. And essentially what that allows us to do is to take quite large step downs and step overs with these circle segment tools, which means we can drop down the traditional cycle time that we would normally see with a regular bull nose, but maintain the same surface finish we would get with a traditional bull nose tool. So this is the first toolpath in Fusion that now supports circle segment tools. Some people may colloquially know them as barrel tools, but barrel tools are just a subset of circle segment tools. We'll be supporting 4 circle segment tools right off the bat. I'll go through them as we go along in this toolpath. So watch out for that. I will call them out so you know exactly which subtypes are supported. So let's jump straight in. So typically I'm using a lens tool, first of all, here to do multi-axis. Now, if I open up the toolpath itself, and we just have a quick look at what we can do. We can machine either the floor or the wall or do rest machining. If we choose to do the floor, you will have the option to do scallop style passes. So those of you that come from kind of Powerball and other CAM system, that's your 3D offset style strategy. If you are machining the walls, you'll have two options. You'll either be able to do it in a scallop style strategy or in a blend style strategy. Okay, so additionally, what we have is we have the ability to obviously tilt that tool around that curved floor and wall to make sure we machine it really, really nice and end up with a nice surface finish. So typically, this is normally set to automatic by default. But in this case, the automatic hasn't given me as ideal outcomes I would have liked. There are kind of lots of sharp corners. The offsets aren't that they aren't that even. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go in and open up the particular toolpath, go over to the multi-axis tab, and I'm now going to change it from automatic to lean and contact point. So this now allows you to kind of fine tune that collision or that multi-axis movement. So I can now specify a preferred contact point. So think of your tool as 0 to 100%, 0 at the bottom of the flute, 100% at the top of the flute. And where we specify 20%, we're looking at 20% from 0. And then we give it a minimum and a maximum so that the tool has the ability to kind of tilt within a range whilst trying to maintain a preferred contact position. So here I've chosen 20%, and I've given it wiggle room from 0.1 all the way to 60%. I've also added a lead angle on the tool as well, and allowed it to deviate between 5 and -5 degrees. Okay, when we do that, we can see the toolpath much more smooth. We're going to end up with a much better surface finish. And I quite like this. There's a nice little scallop toolpath. However, I may prefer to use a offset curve to drive some of my scallop toolpath. In this case, this is really useful for things like open pockets, whether back or front or sides are open. You can use the scallop with a driven drive curve to offset those passes along. So here you can see what I've done is I've simply selected one of those curves highlighted in blue here, and it offsets those passes along. But I prefer much more machining passes than linking moves, so I've decided to change to the long side. Here you can see again, I've picked this long side, but the problem we have with picking the long side is that we often have situations where we may actually leave material here on at the back. Not so much of a problem if it was an open pocket, but certainly in this case, I would prefer to machine those areas. We can also choose to use double curves. So again, if I highlight that to you, you can see both curves on either side are selected, but you end up with a situation of crisscrossing, almost like a quilt patch quote type toolpath on there. And it just means we're going to have to finish that off with a bit of kind of hand polishing. Alternatively, we can also use the longest length. Now, within the toolpath itself, it has the option to use longest length. What that'll do is automatically check the surface and pick the longest aspect of that surface and drive the toolpath offsets from there. Again, we end up with slightly more being machined, but we end up with potentially kind of witness marks, maybe a little bit of material left on in the end there. But fortunately, whatever you do, you're just trying to move that problem around a little bit. But because Fusion has come on in such leaps and bounds over the last few years, you now have all the tools within your toolbox to machine these parts successively with all the toolpaths in your toolbox. Okay, let's now have a look at some of the wall finishing. So I'll just turn off the links at the moment. And one thing probably we should bear in mind is just have a look at the kind of tooltips, and I'll just go kind of through them. So I did say we are supporting kind of 4 subsets of circle segment tools to begin with. The first one is the taper tool. The second is a barrel tool, and you can kind of see that on the screen. The third is probably my favorite, multi-axis, and we'll just kind of simulate this a little bit to kind of see what that looks like. And you can kind of see the tool actually kind of change its axis as it's kind of trying to also change that contact point to the preferred location as well, whilst wiggling within that kind of minimum and maximum value that we gave it. Okay, so just something to bear in mind, have a look at those kind of step downs, if you will, from that scallop toolpath, and have a look what that similar type of step down would look like when using a regular ball nose. So here we are seeing significant cycle time reduction and typically the same surface finish. Okay, so again, this is really good for kind of closed floor pockets. What about kind of open floor pockets? Again, I said we can use scallop on some of the walls, but we can also use blend on some of the walls. Very, very useful for open pockets. Again, here is, let's just kind of simulate so you get a nice little kind of look at what that looks like with blend. There you can kind of see the tool on the inside, multi-axis finishing of the wall using barrel tools for the first time inside of Fusion. Okay, again, just note that kind of step down and typically what that step down would look like if we had to use a regular ball nose tool. So I've just given you a super deep dive into kind of the new multi-axis finishing. Hopefully it's been useful. And I'm now going to hand over back to Spencer. Spencer, over to you.
Thank you, sir. As always, fantastic to see such complex capabilities heading into Fusion and in particular the manufacturing extension. There's so many questions.
Oh, no.
I'm so excited to dive in. The first one, and sorry it's taking so long to answer this one, there's a few people asking around offline mode and the limitations there. Fusion's a cloud tool and it's predominantly some of its major benefits are by being connected to the internet at all times. Obviously, there's circumstances and situations where that's not always possible. And so you can go ahead and cache some designs so you can open them while in offline mode. Then when you come back online, that's going to sync all the files up nice and easy. So I hope that helps. If it doesn't, and there's still questions around that, please let us know.
Love Jonathan's comment there. I need a new 5-axis machine and a new set of tooling.
Talk to us about tutorials for some of this functionality. I mean, maybe probably the best situation there is register for the YouTube channel, check out the community videos.
Absolutely. And with all of the kind of really big functionality that really kind of drives value to our customers, we will be releasing a full video that walks you through this in YouTube in due course. So watch out for that. We're also looking to kind of explore opportunities for supplementary videos going forward. So again, we'd love you guys to reach out. So a good example here is if, for example, we release something like Solid Sweep, for example, and a brand new customer comes to Fusion, there may not be that much content, for example, on Sweep itself leading up to Solid Sweep. So we want to know some of that supplementary content that you think would be really useful for you and other users to consume. So feel free to reach out as well. We do have ideas. We do have a series we're putting together in manufacturing as well, which will help kind of answer some of these kind of problems our new customers have, not just seeing all the glitz and glamour, but also kind of utilizing some of that basic functionality leading up to that glitz and glamour. So that's all stuff we're working on. So watch YouTube, stay tuned to social media channels so you don't miss out on that coming up.
Absolutely right. Custom profiles. Is there a plan to be able to load tools with custom profiles? I know we have form tools on the milling side. Maybe this question's more around the turning side.
So we have been working, I can tell you that solid tooling is on our list. We plan to support P21, G20, G21, G23 tool exports and imports. We plan to support all of that. And that just means we're going to be able to kind of take generally the standard industry supplied tooling data and import that into Fusion going forwards. And this will kind of bring in all of the tool geometry, the feeds and speeds that the recommended manufacturer supplies with that tool geometry. That stuff we are working on. So stay tuned. I can't say when that is, but we are working very hard on getting that into Fusion at some point.
Brilliant. Christopher, thanks for this question. Are there pre-made fixtures in Fusion?
There is. So there is pre-made fixtures within your assets folder within the samples. Scroll on all the way to the bottom of your kind of root directory inside of your home tab or data panel. You will be able to see a whole list of fixture. We support kind of orange vices, lang vices, mitty-bitty, 5-axis. We support all those kind of vices. They're already modeled up as well. So they've already got pre-made stock billets in there. So all you need to do is essentially, if you're using the container method, you can simply drop your part in. And when you're in your setup with your stock, you identify the top level stock container, not the actual file that you've dropped in. And then whenever you kind of drop a new file in, it automatically recalculates. That's a hint. But yes, there are kind of fixtures all available, ready to use inside of Fusion for you today.
Absolutely. And another great question for Christopher. What about Fusion's ability to understand the style of machining that you're doing from the offset?
Okay, give me a little bit more information, Christopher.
I guess what he's looking for there is the ability to define, are you doing 3-axis, 4-axis, 5-axis, and then the parameters and the availability of the options in the toolpaths can adapt.
Yeah, so you're specifically talking about a machine-first approach.
Correct.
Yes, that is something we are working on, something we have been working on for quite a while. And all I can say is that we are we're very much closely working on something like that. So stay tuned. Again, very close, but can't give you an idea when. We do want to, and a little bit more kind of color around that. If you select a 3, 4, or 5-axis machine, we want to be able to kind of show the options relevant to the amount of axes that your machine has, but we also kind of want to show you some of the functions and abilities that your machine has. So your machine may have TCP enabled, it may not. It may have various different options enabled, in which case we want to turn those on and off within Fusion and show you the options only relevant to your machine, so that you don't ever have to kind of run into a situation where you're trying to use something that's not actually capable for your machine.
Great question from Michael. Maybe this is one of the last ones, because we do have some exciting electronics enhancements to come. One thing that Michael's noticed is that the post-processors are becoming more and more segmented over the last 3 or 4 updates. Did the posts change all the time, as well as the machines that are available as we release?
Okay. Certainly posts is not my expert area. However, we do update our posts all the time. And if you've watched all of our What's News, you'll be amazed just how many changes go into our post on a regular update. So yes, we're updating them to make them better, make them more efficient, for sure.
And the engine behind the post as well.
The engine, we upgrade the engine recently as well to kind of make them more efficient. So yes, we may change them from time to time. However, if there is something that's bothering you about your particular post, reach out to us. If it's a problem you're having, we'd like to solve that problem with you. So reach out to us and let's see if we can solve that problem really quickly.
Amazing. Frank asked if we can get access to the files and the designs we're using for the webinar. We're actively working on that. We're so close. In the next month or so, you should be able to see all the designs that we use across design, manufacturing, electronics, right there in the data panel for you to use and play around with and really learn. So it's coming, but just not quite yet. We're so close. Thanks.
No worries.
Amazing, as always. Keep the questions coming in. Kieran, if I can ask you to jump in the chat and Q&A, because there's a few more flying around.
Cool.
But we've got 10 minutes left, and I really want to hear from Richard about electronics. So take us away.
Okay, welcome to the world of electronics. This time I jumped directly into the 2D PCB editor. Just let me share my screen. And I would like to show you a little bit of the new things here, talking about colors. So we have custom colors now, which means you can individually assign a color to a signal or to a net class. So here in the PCB editor, you see the list of layers. We have different colors layer-wise. So you have the top layer, in this case, it's red, bottom layer is blue, and so on. But what if you would like to highlight one signal, not just click on it and highlight, but have it permanently visible? So what I can do is, I can do this for a signal or for a net class. Just let me show you how to do this. For example, I have defined a net class here in the PCB, which is called analog. And I have some members, all the A signals, okay? And now if I go into my editor and I just click on one of these signals, for example, the A2 signal, then you see here on the right-hand side in the inspector, the option appearance. And now here I can change the color for the whole net class. If I click on it, you see I can assign, let's say, the yellow color and click OK. And now you see all the signals that are assigned to this net class have this color. But I could also mark individual signals. So if I go here, let me click on this one again. It's the A2 signal. It's to analog net class assigned. And now I can say, okay, I want to have this, let's say, in purple. I click on it, and I have this signal individually marked. As I said before, we have a number of layers in this PCB. The design you see here on the screen, it's an older one. So it's based on actually on a very old version. You see the layer names here, T-stop, T-cream, T-finish. If you're an Eagle user, you're used to it. If you're new to it, I guess it's sometimes hard to understand what we want to tell you with the name of the layer. So we decided to change the layer names so that they are more comprehensive. So if I go into a new board file, you see the layer names are changed a bit. So it's silk screen top, or we have the names top, or we have solder mask top, or whatever it is. So I think it's a bit more comprehensive for all the guys who are working in the world of electronics, and for all of them that are new to this design space. With that, I want to show you one thing more. You know, we have the help function in Fusion. If I go to help, of course, I can use the menu, go into learning and documentation, product documentation, and then I have to scroll through the content. If you have, for example, questions about the layer, what we can do in the electronics workspace, I have the command line here. Just click into the command line and I type it. Okay, it's old-fashioned, old school, but it's really effective. I type simply help and maybe, yeah, layer, for example. And now I hit the enter key and the browser comes up and it goes exactly to this command and I see all the information. How can I use it? What is it about? You see here the information about the layers. And well, we are short in time. So what I want to do is I wanted to show you something about the offline working in Fusion Electronics. I've seen a question in the chat about offline. In electronics, if you are not online, yeah, all the cloud-related things, 3D models and so on, it's not possible to use them. Of course, you can work offline, you can save your files, but if it comes, for example, to defining a library, then it was not, or until now, it was not possible to work and create a library. Now you can do it. You just open a new library file, and then if you're on the library file, if you're online, if you're offline, I go here and show it's a 1 minute task. Okay, I work offline. Now I want to, I have the menu in the way here. Okay, I have a library, for example, and I create a new one just to show you. I say here, new electronics library. That's a new file, and just let me import something from another library just to show you. I take this component, for example, and now I have it imported into my library, which is in offline mode. I can't save it because, yeah, I would have to store it in Fusion Team, which doesn't work. What I do now is, just to show the workflow, is I export this file into the Fusion local library file, say export, and save it in the download folder, and then I can just open my file browser, and you see it's stored locally, and I can import it again into my new library. So into Fusion. This works with the design here. Go into the schematic, calling the place component panel, and I start the library manager. And now I have the import option here. Go here, say import from local disk, go into my downloads folder. Okay, it's untitled. I didn't name it, but just to show you, bring it in. It's in use. If I scroll down, you see I have an untitled library. I have a lot of libraries available. These libraries that are in use are synced to the computer, so they are available even if I'm offline. But the newly created library now is also available. And where is it? Untitled. It should be anywhere here. Here it is. And so it's usable. I can just add it here with the place components panel. Go here and bring in my new component that I have copied in the offline mode. So yeah, it's a little bit a help in case you don't have internet. As I said, you can save your files. That's not a problem. But if you want to create a new library, this was not possible yet. And well, that's it in very, very short about electronics. Color code, help system, that's really cool. And the offline mode, which really also helps you when you're not working with a stable internet connection, for example. Spencer.
Amazing.
Yeah, do you have some questions?
Every time electronics amazes me. Thanks so much for taking us through. First question, and this question we almost get every single time, is electronics looks super cool, but
Yes,
how
it
do
is.
how do you get started? How do you learn more?
How do you get started? So yeah, actually, you see, if you start Fusion, you get the mechanical workspace. So there is a setting in the preference where you can switch and you can get automatically in the electronics design workspace. If you don't have it for the first time, you have to go into the file menu and then you say, okay, new electronics design. And then that's the place to start, where you can start with a schematic, go into the 2D PCB, add components to the PCB and so on. So we have a lot of information about electronics in the YouTube channel. We have a Fusion YouTube channel, and there's an electronics playlist. There you find almost everything, also how to get started. And we also have some information in the help system in Fusion about electronics, even with small videos, how to get started.
Fantastic. There's been loads about the home tab. I just want to clarify it. If you have a personal hub in your team select at the top left-hand corner, you won't have access to the home tab today. We are starting and rolling out a process for you to convert those personal hubs to team hubs. Once there's no personal hub in your dropdown, the home tab should become available to you. That's currently being rolled out, and so you'll have to be patient with this a little bit. What I would say is if you're actively using a personal hub today, a recommendation would be start using a team hub as soon as possible. It's going to really streamline that process of conversion and get you used to transitioning away from that personal hub. Plus, it's going to give you access to all host of different functionality, configurations, faster libraries, and so much more. So personal hubs are a thing of the past, or will be soon, and starting that journey to team hub today would be my recommendation, just to streamline that process. That's it. Thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, we heard from the data side, where we saw the home tab improvements, so the data panel improvements. Much love for those. James took us through the design space, the drawing space, automated drawings, really saving loads of non-value added time there. We then jumped over into the cold end of the factory here, where we talked about manufacturing and some really nice enhancements to the machining extension, manufacturing extension. Barrel tools are now in, which I know is much appreciated. And then, of course, the wonderful and magical world of electronics workspace from Rich. Rich comes over from Germany every time. We appreciate him coming. I hope you do too. To have all of us here, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.